My name is Dorothy Mitchell, and I work for a company called CACI. And we've been working very closely with Highways England to create the new departure approval system, DAS3. We've also been working with WSP, who've been working with Highways England, and have been refreshing the departures manual. So the agenda today is going to, first of all, briefly look at the departures manual refresh. I won't cover this in detail, as you should have that training, but I will give a brief overview of that to set the context for DAS3. And then I'll start DAS3, which is the more detailed part of this webinar. We'll do an introduction, then look at the user roles and process in the tool. I'll do a demonstration of the tool itself. I will then talk about the training materials we have available, and also then look at some common usage questions. So that's the agenda for the session, so let's get started. First of all, as we're working with Highways England, we always want to take a few minutes just to think about safety. Today, we're going to think about sedentary working, as we're talking about an IT system, and a lot of us spend a lot of time sitting down in the day. So how does that impact us? Electrical activity in our leg muscles shut off as soon as you sit down, and calorie burning drops to just 1 per minute. And you can see there that people with sitting jobs have twice the rate of cardiovascular disease as those with standing jobs. So how can we be less sedentary and move around more? Some suggestions here are setting reminders on your phone to move around every 30 minutes or to take and make phone calls while standing, and also things like walking meetings. And this diagram just shows that the impact of sitting down too much all day is not simply on your legs and feet. It really has an extensive impact on your whole body. So it's important that we all try and get up and move around as much as possible during the day. So now, the first item on the agenda, the departures manual refresh. As I mentioned, WSP have been working with Highways England to refine and refresh the departure process, and also as a result, the departures manual. DAS3 that I'm talking about later has been created in conjunction with this new departures manual. So the end-to-end departure process has been reviewed, and that's been with 4 key aims in mind. The first is to reduce the end-to-end time taken to determine departures, to improve the timeliness of the submission of departures to better manage project delivery risks, to improve the quality system to reduce the number of departures that are rejected for missing information or on quality grounds, and fourthly, to improve visibility so that stakeholders can follow the progress of a departure throughout its development and appraisal. And when we look at the DAS tool, what you'll see is some of these reflected in the functionality that we've provided. So, for example, to reduce the end-to-end time taken, project managers are able to look at departures throughout the process. And to improve the quality, there's a significant role called the proposer, who can submit a departure, so ensuring that that quality is really high. So with this departure refresh, what's happening? The first is that there is a new departures manual that sets out the requirements and advice for an effective departure system. It's not published in the DMRB. It will be provided to you through leadership and also through a direct link in DAS3, which I will show. And secondly, the new departure approval system, DAS. So this is much easier to access and use, and it really promotes engagement and collaboration throughout the entire life cycle of departures. So this session is focused on DAS3. DAS3 is a single application which you access in your internet web browser. It is going to be replacing WebDAS and DAS2, and it captures the full life cycle and audit train of a departure. It's supported in Firefox and Chrome. It is not supported in Internet Explorer. The tool has been designed with users in mind, so the user interface is much simpler and easier to use, and it should reduce the time and effort that are associated with creating, reviewing, and determining departures. And some of the functionality allows improved collaboration. Designers, project managers, and specialists can all access, and there's huge improvements in collaboration between different stakeholders. Accessibility. The tool is much more accessible. It's fully integrated with Windows 10 and it's accessed via a web browser, so VPN will no longer be required. And at the end here, I've got one of the new features of DAS3, which are the email notifications. And these email users who have been assigned to a departure, or the users when a key change has happened to a departure that they're assigned to. And this is obviously very beneficial, as it means that you don't need to manually contact that person, and you can very easily see how your departure is progressing. I'll give an example of that later. In terms of DAS3 release, hopefully you have received this in the release communications that have been shared. But on the screen here, I have the release plan. It's a phased release by discipline across Highways England. And here you can see the different disciplines and their scheduled release date. So our first release is Pavements and VRS, going live next Monday, the 18th of February. The departures manual covers the user roles and process, and DAS3 is reflecting those in the tool. But I'm just going to give a quick overview to give the context before we dive into a demonstration. The designer, they identify departures associated with their design and develop the associated departure. They implement the determination of departure. The proposer, a senior technical expert who will oversee a departure and submit it for appraisal. They verify that applications are assessed and fully justified prior to submission. The key difference between these roles is that the proposer is a senior technical expert, and they press submit, which passes the departure to the Highways England project manager for appraisal. So this is that point looking at trying to improve the quality of departures that are submitted. The project manager, they authorize the submission of a departure. They also determine the departure based on the technical specialist and other specialist reviews. It's worth just noting here that the term determined is what was previously known as sealed. The specialist submission point, they are the initial point of contact for safety and engineering standards for a departure. They assign the technical specialist and the authorizing signatory for a departure. The technical specialist provides a technical review and a recommendation for the departure. They may assign advisory specialists when required, and they can provide advisory comments and recommendations. The authorizing signatory, they authorize the recommendation that the technical specialist has provided, and this progresses the departure to the project manager for determination. So those are the key roles. And we've spoken a bit about quite a few roles there. We've designed DAS3 and the new departure process to be a flexible process that allows all departures across disciplines to use the same tool. So as a result, some of these roles are compulsory and some of them are optional. So I've just got a little slide here to talk about that. On the left-hand side in navy, we've got compulsory roles. Firstly, the proposer, because they submit the application to the project manager. Then the project manager, who appraises and later determines the application. The SSP, who reviews and then assigns the required specialists. The authorizing signatory is compulsory, as they are the specialist that submits the recommendation to the project manager. And then we've got the project manager again, who does the determination. So on the right-hand side now, you'll see in blue, we've got optional. So at the front, we've got the designer. So the designer and proposer, as I mentioned before, the key difference is that the proposer submits the application, but the designer and the proposer could be the same user if you don't require that two-step in the departure. And then some of the specialists that are optional, the technical specialist, and they are optional because the authorizing signatory can also be the technical specialist. They can both provide reviews and recommendations, but only the authorizing signatory can actually submit the recommendation. And also advisory specialists. So these are always optional, and they're specialists or consultants who you would like to get the opinion of for a review or recommendation on a departure if appropriate. So that's a little look at the roles. Now let's take a look at the process. On the left-hand side, we have a process flow, and this is also shown in DAS3 itself, and we'll see it later in the tool. It starts with the designer creating and editing the departure application. And then when that's completed, it moves to the proposer submitting the departure for project manager appraisal. At this point, the Highways England project manager performs the appraisal and authorises the submission of the departure. Then we have a stage where the DAS admin will perform a check on the departure. This will be an admin-based check ensuring that the key information for the departure is correct. Then the SSP performs a review and comments on the departure and assigns the required specialists. Then the specialists perform their review. So the technical specialist can perform a review and recommendation and may engage advisory specialists if they're required. And then the authorising signatory will submit that to the project manager for determination. And the final stage is where the project manager then determines the departure. As I mentioned, this is shown in detail in the Departures Manual in sections 2 for user roles and 3 for the process. So now I'm going to move to a demonstration of the tool itself. On the screen now, you see the scenarios that I'm going to cover. Firstly, how to review a departure and its attachments, how to export a departure, how to assign users, and what is the diary in DAS3. And then we're going to look at some more user-specific scenarios. For the project manager, how to support or reject a departure when it's in PM appraisal stage. For the specialists, how to provide a comment and recommendation. And then again for the project manager, how to determine departure. So let's move over to the tool and look at the first scenarios. I'm just going to log out to show you the login page. And here I'm in DAS3, and this is the login page for the user. I'm going to log in as Test Project Manager, which is a test account, but this would be your actual Highways England email. I log in, and I'm taken to the home page in DAS. In the navigation bar at the top, we have Home, which is the button that always navigates you to this page. And on the right-hand side, there is a user icon and the name of the user who's logged in. This is a test account, but if this was a real scenario, this would say Dorothy Mitchell, my first and last name. In the main body of the page, we have a grid showing me the different departures that I'm assigned to. The user can only see the departures that they are assigned to. And I can see some key information: the departure ID, its title, its stage in the process flow we just spoke about, its time in SES, and who it's currently assigned to. I'm going to open up this example that I've made so we can have a look. I just clicked that to open it up, and it's opened up the departure, and this is the main page. On the left at the top here, we have key data, and it shows me the departure ID, its status, and also who it's assigned to. And underneath, I have a navigation bar. At the top, we have submission and the different areas within the submission, then the diary and the specialist review. I can navigate to these places either by clicking or by scrolling within the pad. Let's first look at the top area of the submission, which is the departure progress area. On the left, you can see people, and here we have the different roles that we spoke about and which users have been assigned. Again, this is showing the username, so in a real-life scenario, this might say Dorothy Mitchell. These are test users. And on the right hand, we have the timeline, which is the process timeline that I showed you. In here, we can see that it gives me a date and timestamp, and it tells you which user did what action. So this morning at 5 to 9, test designer created this application. And then at 1 minute past 9, the test designer then submitted the application. If I scroll down, I get to departure information. And in here are the key pieces of information about the departure. You can see the design organization, the title of the departure, the standard and the standard information that it's associated with, year of issue, and other pieces of information. Importantly, there is a departure summary down here, which is where the designer and proposer will have entered a user-friendly summary of the departure. And we also have a departure location. The departure has to have a minimum for one location associated, and you can see a friendly username here, Bristol, and then an OSGB 36 grid reference. You can have multiple locations for departure, and again, there's guidance on that in the departures manual. As I scroll down to submission, I'm getting to the main body of the application. And you'll recognise these titles and subtitles from WebDAS and DAS2. This is the content that's been populated by the designer and proposer. And if I scroll down, I can see they've got the ability to insert different things such as images and tables. To view attachments, you move to the right-hand side and use this safety clip icon. When I click it, you can see here it's saying attached files 1, and there's a bridge image which is attached. To download it, I press this arrow, it's downloaded to my local machine, and then I can open the image. To export the application, you use this export button also in the right-hand sidebar. You can see it tells me that it's going to download an export of this departure. This export will be saved as an HTML file that can be opened in your web browser. So I open this, and you can see it's been downloaded here as an HTML file. So I click it, it opens up here in my web browser, and you can see all of the information that we're able to see in the departure is also exported. So here is the key information, here's the standard information, we can see the locations and what files are attached, and then as we move down we can see the actual submission content itself, and again pictures and images are exported. If we scroll right down, the diary is also exported. We're going to talk a bit about the diary later, but this is just to show you that all the information I'm going to demonstrate in the diary is also exported. So from this file, you can save it as the required file format that you need. So the next scenario I wanted to show you is how to assign users. So if I scroll back to the top to departure progress, there is this assign button available. When I press it, I have different roles available that I have permission to set. To assign them, I would click in and type the name of the user that I want to assign. You can see that the drop-down list is filtered, and then I can click the user and press assign. I'm not going to do that right now, but that is how you would use the assign functionality. And this is a point at which the user would get an automated email from WebDAS. I've got an example to show you. So this is an example email, and if you read this second line, you can see you've been assigned to the role of technical specialist for the departure application, and then this is the departure ID. And further down here, this is a link that will directly open that departure. These automated emails are done automatically, and also you will receive them when there's key status changes in a departure. So if a departure you're working on has received a review or a recommendation, you would also be sent an email at that point. So returning to my scenarios, we've looked at the first three: how to review a departure and its attachments, how to export it, and how to assign users. The diary is accessed in the left-hand navigation bar by clicking, and the diary opens. The diary is automatically populated with key changes to the departure, including status changes and when users add comments. Here we can see that the time and date stamp for this morning at 9:01, the test designer submitted the departure and they raised this comment, ready for PM appraisal. And on the right-hand side, you can see that the status changed from submission and preparation to PM appraisal. The diary is also an area for general correspondence for departure. So as a project manager, for example, if you wanted to speak directly with the designer, you can type a comment in here. Press submit. And you see here that it's appeared 11:24 and my username and the comment I entered. This is all exported, as I showed you, so you've got a real audit there of all communication on the departure. The next scenario is specific for project managers, and it's how to support or reject a departure that's in PM appraisal stage. This departure that I have open as an example is in status PM appraisal. So as the project manager, what I have available are two buttons, reject or support. Let's look at reject first. You do not support this departure application and you wish to reject it. Please indicate your reasons for rejection with PQ codes. And I have to add a comment, and then I'm able to press confirm and close. If I chose support, I have a similar pop-up with a different message. You are supporting the development and submission of this departure application. By default, the recommendation from the specialist review will return to you for review and final determination. However, if you wish to automatically accept the outcome of the review, you can use the options below. Leave all options unchecked if you wish to see the departure again for all possible outcomes. Please note that your choices below can be changed at any time up to the specialist review. I will automatically accept a recommendation to approve, approve with conditions, or reject. So this is about improving the timeliness and also the end-to-end time for completing departures. This allows project managers to predetermine departures. So if I chose approve and the specialist suggests a recommendation of approve, this will automatically move the departure to determination approved. Similarly, if I chose reject, it would automatically determine the departure is rejected if the specialist recommends to reject it. You don't have to tick any of these, you can leave them all blank, and that will ensure that you are returned the departure for determination, or you can tick a different combination. I'm going to leave them all unticked and then provide my comments. Now I press confirm and close. And you can see on the timeline it's been automatically updated to say that the test project manager supported this departure, and now it's been assigned to DAS admin. And in the left, you can also see here the status has changed to DAS admin. So that's covered the scenario how to support or reject a departure. That's NPM appraisal stage. So next we're going to look at the specialists and how to provide comments or recommendations. I'm going to log out of the tool and log back in as a specialist to show you this. Again, I'm logging in as a test account, and this would really say Dorothy Mitchell as an example. I'm going to open up my departure, and you can see the status is specialist submission point. I'm logged in as the SSP. So what I would do is come down and review my departure in the same way. I look at the content, I look at the attachments, and once I'm ready to assign the relevant specialist, I can click on Specialist Review here. And it opens up the Specialist Review section with the comments. You'll see there are different sections. So we have an area for the SSP, the specialist, the authorizing signatory, and also any additional consultants. As the SSP, I just click in my area and I can type. You'll notice there's also the edit bar that's enabled at the top when I'm typing. And this gives some functionality such as how to insert numbered lists and also how to insert images and tables. Now I'm the SSP and I've left my review. My next task is to assign the specialist. So I return to submission and use the assign functionality or the choose specialist button. It's telling me that I'm going to assign a specialist who will perform a technical review and make a recommendation for the outcome of this departure application. You must assign an authorizing signatory to make the recommendation. If you only provide an authorizing signatory, they will also be assigned to a technical specialist role. So this is that point we were talking about between compulsory and optional user roles. For this departure application, I've got two separate people. So I'm going to enter in here the test technical specialist and here the authorizing signatory. And this works in exactly the same way that we saw in the assign functionality. I press, firstly I enter a comment. And then I press assign. And you see in the people section at the top here that this has been updated to say who I assigned as the technical specialist, test technical specialist. So I'm going to log out and log back in as that technical specialist to show you how they would provide a comment or a recommendation. So I'm just going to log in now as the technical specialist. Open up the departure that I'm working on. And you see I've got the button Review available. If I press that, I'm taken to that same area and I can see the SSP review that was provided. This has opened up the specialist review, so you can also access it this way on the left-hand side. I'm a specialist review, so I'm going to enter my comment in here. And it's telling me that if there are multiple technical specialists, create a new subheading. To do this, I would choose from this drop-down and then put my name so we knew which specialist had provided this review. Now if I scroll down, I have a specialist review recommendation available. And there's 4 recommendations I can make. Rework required, rejection, conditional approval, or approval. A new stage is the rework required stage. And if I chose this just by clicking, what it does is it sends the application back to the proposer for rework. So this again is enhancing the quality of submissions that are provided. I'm happy to conditionally approve all this, so I'm going to click that, and then I get this button, Send to Authorizing Signatory. When I did that, it automatically updated again on the timeline, and it's been reassigned to the Test Authorizing Signatory, which is the user that I assigned. So I'm going to log out and log in as them. Now I'm logged in as the Authorizing Signatory, and I move to the review, and I can see the reviews that were made by the SSP and also the specialist. And I'm going to leave my review in my section. Conditional approval is already selected, and you'll see that I have the button Make Recommendation. And this is where the recommendation is then moved to the project manager for determination. It's reminding me that I'm recommending that this departure is approved with conditions. I enter my comment and press Confirm and Close. And you'll see in the status here, it's moved to PM determination and been reassigned to the test project manager. So looking back at scenarios, we've covered that one there, which is how to provide comments and recommendations as a specialist. So the next scenario is the final stage in the application lifecycle, and is how to determine a departure. So I'm going to log out and just log back in as the project manager. Now, if we go to the home page, first of all, what we'll see on the home page is here, this is my example scenario, and it's in stage PM determination. Also, we have time in SES in days here. I only created this departure today as an example, so it's 0. But here's an easy way for you to track the progress of your departures. I click it to open it, and I'm ready to make a determination. As the project manager, I would review this again, and then move to the specialist review area to see the reviews. And I can see from all of my specialists what they've recommended, and the recommendation. I have 3 buttons available to determine the departure: Reject, Approve with Conditions, or Approve. The button that is marked in blue here is the button that matches the recommendation by the specialist. So in this example, they've said conditional approval and approve with conditions as blue. If they had advised to reject, the word reject would be blue. If we look at all 3 of these options as examples, if I chose to reject it, I'm prompted, this determination is different to the technical specialist's recommendation. Please refer to section 6 of the Departures Manual for guidance on commentary requirements. you do not support this departure and you wish to reject it. Please indicate your reason for rejection. And then I have to add a compulsory comment. Once I'd done that, I would be able to press confirm and close and reject it. If we now look at approve, I have a similar box. It's got the same warning here because I'm not agreeing with the specialist, and it's telling me that I'm approving this departure unconditionally. Instead, I want to approve this departure with conditions. And I'm not prompted because I'm now agreeing with the specialist, and it's telling me you're approving this departure providing the conditions are met. I enter my comments. And then close. And you'll see that the timeline is updated here to be completed and that the test project manager approved the departure with conditions. And on the left, the status has changed to approved with conditions. So now we've looked at a demo of the tool and the scenarios that I've listed. What are the training materials that are available? Firstly, all of the scenarios that I've just talked about and many more are available as YouTube tutorials as bite-sized videos. They can be accessed directly through DAS3, and in that same location there are also some PDF documents for DAS3 and the departure manual. I'll show you now in the tool. So in the header bar you can see this help icon, and if I click it I get a drop down of the content that's available. At the moment we have some DAS3 tutorials and user FAQs, and in real life when we go live we will also have departure manual content. If I click the videos, this YouTube channel is opened, which is the DAS3 YouTube channel. In the playlist area, you can see by role many different videos. This one is DAS for Designer, DAS for Project Manager, DAS for SSPs, and these are playlists that focus on that user role and how to do tasks as that user in DAS. If we click on the Project Manager's one as an example, on the right-hand side, you can see that I have 12 different videos available, which are specific to my role, and they're bite-sized videos on how to do things. So we can see how to download attachments, how to determine a departure, how to export a departure. So hopefully these will be helpful. The PDF that is available here is a user FAQ, and this contains common questions that aren't appropriate for video content, so things such as how to reset my password or how to request a user account can be found in this PDF. And there's also a DAS admin email address shown on the screen, departures@highwaysengland.co.uk, and they'll really be on hand to help you with any other problems you have. In the tool, we also have a contact support button, and if you click this, you're able to provide feedback directly to the DAS team. The next section is to look at what are the common usage questions for DAS3. Firstly, how do I access DAS3? All existing enabled WebDAS and DAS2 accounts are going to be transferred automatically to DAS3. If you don't have access or an account, then email DAS admin and they'll be able to help. In terms of the actual link to DAS3, we're going to provide that in the release email communications, which will be shared from the 18th of February. When should you use it? After the disciplines have been released, if you remember, it's phase released by discipline. So after the specific discipline has been released, all new departures shall be submitted and reviewed in DAS3. All departures that have been submitted and exist in DAS2 already complete their life cycle in DAS2. And after the discipline release dates, departures that exist in WebDAS Scratchpad and haven't been submitted need to be recreated and submitted in DAS3. So the key thing here really is that all new departures are going to be created and processed in DAS3, and those that already exist in DAS2 will complete their life cycle in DAS2. The natural next question is how are these going to be migrated and how will I search them? So we've got two cases. The current case is before migration, and that will be the case on the 18th of February for Go Live. So in this case, departures that have been created in DAS2 can be searched and viewed in WebDAS or DAS2, as you do today. And departures that have been created in DAS3 must be searched and viewed in DAS3. After we've fully completed the release of DAS3, we are going to migrate determined departures from DAS2 to DAS3. This won't occur as soon as the departure is determined. It will occur on a set date and on a defined schedule. So, for example, it may be from the 1st of January on a monthly basis. That has not yet been defined because we're going to define it after the complete release of DAS3. And when we have defined that, we'll communicate it with users. So that was all the key content I wanted to cover in the session today. So let's just recap some of the key points. The first is that DAS3 is going to be phase released by discipline from the 18th of February. It is supported in Firefox and Chrome and not in Internet Explorer. And there is a wide range of tutorials and supports available on YouTube, including bite-sized videos, PDFs, and there will also be a recording of this session. So if you would like a DAS3 account and you don't have one, please contact that email address. And if you have any feedback or suggestions, either about this presentation and webinar or about the DAS3 tool, then please email it to iig_das@caci.co.uk.